All right, so welcome back to another episode of the AI Ascent Podcast. With this podcast, we have Flemming Miguel, who is an AI consultant, and I'm really excited to have you here, Miguel. How are you doing?
Everything good today, Luke? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good as well. Cool. So I know that we met over Twitter, and I know that you had been doing some AI consulting. And so what kind of projects are you working on right now?
Right now, mainly the thing that's been coming on through the past 2 to 3 weeks is AI strategy. I've noticed more and more that companies are a bit trying to implement AI, but not having clue of where to put it or how to put it. Or some of the time, they are just, as the thread boy said, like trying to implement AI, but just doing the regular chat GPT, using chat GPT in the office is not an AI strategy. So I'm trying to help companies to implement a real strategy using AI tools on top of it.
That makes a lot of sense. That's really exciting. And also for the viewers, in case anybody wants to reach out to you, what kind of projects are you open to taking on? And what type of work interests you the most?
Right now, my main focus is based on large language models. And in every way that you think that a large language models can augment your business, I can help you take it there. Especially if you're trying to implement a strategy around using artificial intelligence to boost creation, to boost any sort of productivity, especially with language-based outputs. I do a bit with the image side, but it's not my forte right now.
For sure, that makes sense. So when you implement those solutions, what kind of technologies do you typically use on a day-to-day basis?
Right now it's mostly GPT-4, and we are testing a bit with using workflows based on the Llama and many of the variations of Llama and how to use that to implement some business objectives. But right now it's mainly GPT-4, for example, how to create an workflow for revisions using GPT-4, how to augment some businesses outcomes with that. For example, how to create different pricing pages for different people using some sort of artificial intelligence for it.
Like a web page type of thing?
Yeah, in a web page, but also you see those companies that send those heavy, costly proposals. Sometimes they need to have it customized to the T and have it customized for your business in particular. Like when you're dealing with medical institutions, they need to know that you're covering specifically their use case. So
Mhm.
for that sort of communication, it's useful to have a GPT-4 sort of filtering out and changing some words and specifying what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And how did you initially become interested in AI, and what led you into this career path?
Well, it's a bit crazy. I got started with AI, or to the interest of AI around 2013. Mainly, I started learning Python, and when I started learning Python back in the day, there was nothing similar or even close to the AI we know today. Back in the day, we had scikit-learn and we have some stuff, but then I got interested in doing recommendation algorithms. And those recommendation algorithms, they do a technique called collaborative filtering, where basically you take the input of many people and do what did they buy based on all the outputs of all the different products and how much people rank those. And when you get that into a system, I got excited to learn more. Um, and then I did my first chatbot for recommendations, that you say, I like this bike. And then he said to you different bikes. I was ecstatic. Like since that point on, I kid you not, I haven't stopped. Then I went on to sentiment analysis. Then I went more into the web part, building websites and that stuff. because only if you control the website, then you can control how to put a chatbot in that website. So I went on to do that part, and here we are today. When I saw that GPT-3 was growing and the way that it was going, I thought that maybe there was a chance for those things that used to take a lot of time and used to take a lot of data before. Maybe what OpenAI has already helps you to build those technologies and those solutions completely faster, and it works. And so that led me to today, when I see that a lot of people want to use AI, but they maybe don't have the expertise or the tools for it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I saw a statistic lately where they asked 2,000 people about if they knew about these different technologies like ChatGPT, and almost half of them hadn't even heard of ChatGPT. So there's this huge market for people who could leverage this technology in order to uh, solve business problems, but they don't even know about the technology yet. So bringing in someone like you could be really effective in order for them to leverage that.
Yeah, one of the interesting thing, like when you are in this field we think like everybody knows what GPT is. Like, of course, everybody knows what Chat GPT, and well, it has hundreds of millions of users, so you assume that is common knowledge already, but it's not. And turns out that even people that heard of it, some people just clearly have put some jokes into it, got some things back, laughed a bit, and left. They have no clue how to put that into their business and how to properly use it. And then there's the other part, people that never even heard of it. And you can't imagine how much of that people could benefit just by using it a bit, just by having 3 to 4 prompts that they use. They could reap enormous benefits that they not even imagine right now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what direction do you plan on taking your consulting company in the future?
um there's with me there's always like a two-way thing. Like I don't like to go into one specific area, because maybe most of the time when you do consulting, it depends on what the clients want, and different clients have radically different needs. So I want, of course, big corporate clients that can or need that AI strategy. And that's where most of the revenue and the time will be spent. But I want to do something like maybe not a one-on-one, but a cohort-based workshop thing that I can have 10, 20 people, of those people that never heard of AI before, that they wouldn't pay three, four, $5,000 for a workshop or to have someone tell them what to do with it, but that they could pay something to understand how to take their business from one stage to the next using artificial intelligence. And if you have 10, 20 people in a group, that could be interested. That could be very interesting for me. So I'm looking at those two areas into taking my consulting right now.
Yeah, this is definitely a blue ocean area, and really a lot of opportunity to uh, show other people how to leverage these technologies. So that sounds really exciting. And in case any of the viewers want to reach out to you to get involved, what is the best way to reach you?
I'm on Twitter at Flemming Miguel. And if you want to email me in case of business, you can email me at fleming@mapmakers.life. Map makers, like map makers, like making maps. That's the that's the strategy behind the strategy firm. I'm trying to create a map for everybody to be able to understand artificial intelligence on their own. But it first starts with a personal approach. So mapmakers.life,
Okay.
that's the page. It's coming together soon. Actually, I think in the next 24 hours, there's some stuff that is going to be started on the website. and there's some good things. But if you email me at Flemming at mathmakers.live, or look for me on Twitter at Flemming Miguel, or the new Instagram app, like the Twitter like app, I'm in there too at Flemming Miguel.
Perfect. And I'll also make sure to put all of your contact information in the description of this video below as well.
Of course, it will be there.
Perfect. So to go on to some interesting topics in the world of AI, what is your perspective on the impending advent of brain implants in light of recent developments such as FDA approval of human trials for Neuralink?
This is interesting. Like the thought that we live in the era where finally the brain implant, the like putting intelligence extra into your brain could come true is amazing. Now, there's a couple years before we can see like regular usage of that. And right now, it obviously will go into much of a medical area, but that's good, because when you see the impact that it can make on people that have trouble walking, and it sort of jumpstart their brain in a way so that they can move better, so that some people can communicate better. I saw that they're doing some study with people that suffer from Parkinson's and some of those diseases. It's amazing that technology can reach into the brain in that way and help people. But then, after that, it comes the software revolution of that. It comes the fact that you will be controlling your computer with your brain. You will be interfacing with all the technology that you want. And it's a bit spooky. I gotta give it that, but it's exciting. Like, of course, we will do it in a safe way. At least in my case, I wouldn't put it in my brain and my head if I didn't thought out all the risks. But it's amazing. It's amazing technology, and I hope that Neuralink actually pulls it out, especially for the amount of people that it will help.
Yeah. And I can imagine something like this opening up an entirely new industry of applications that could possibly interface with the brain implants.
Yeah, and for people that otherwise wouldn't have access to those technologies. For example, the case of Stephen Hawking, like his brain was perfectly working, but he had trouble using everything. Can you imagine having a Stephen Hawking with a Neuralink talking to a chat GPT to augment his work in such a way? Like, it's incredible the amount of things that can happen. And us, like software people, like as soon as there's a new platform, people are going to flood to it, making all sort of weird things and all sorts of useful stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be really interesting. And I know there's other obstacles as well when it comes to implementing technologies like this, such as the privacy considerations. Because, for example, with the cell phone, everything that we do ends up getting, like all the information goes to all of these applications and stuff. But what about the next level of that, where if people are building these applications for the brain implant, do all of our thoughts end up going into some database, or how is that even going to work?
Can you imagine having to give permissions for someone to read your mind?
Yeah,
Like,
or signing like accepting a terms of service for something like that.
your history of thoughts will be forwarded to this company so that they can properly align the system to you. That's some Black Mirror level thing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine just like in internet history, there's a thought history, and it's able
whoa,
to keep track of exactly everything that we think of and keep track of how many times that we think of it.
yeah. But the thing is,
And
like,
then
personally for me, I want it. For me,
yeah, and then like advertisers could leverage that information in order to find the best time to send you a message.
that's the scary part.
Yeah.
Always the scary part of the technology comes when advertisers can misuse it. Like, you will be walking through a place and thinking like, oh, that would be nice to have, I don't know, red sandals or whatever, and all of the sudden everything you see is red sandals around you. That's
Mhm.
that's weird.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I would imagine there's so many different types of obstacles that need to be overcome, but the technology is coming.
It's coming for sure.
Yeah, and this kind of goes into another paper that I was reading earlier today, where they were talking about how this new LLM that will have a 1,000 or a 1 billion token context window.
All
So,
right.
did you see that one?
I've been seeing it. I haven't read fully into it, but I have it there.
Yeah, it's just so intriguing because the average human reads about 2 billion tokens through their entire lifetime. And
Yeah.
now we're hearing about a single model that can take in 1 billion tokens in one go without even a massive increase in computation time.
That's completely getting into the twilight zone of what these systems can do. Like, as you say, a human being for the entirety of their life will have twice the amount of content size that these algorithms have in one go. Like, this is the
Mhm.
start of something incredible. Now, obviously, that opens up a whole slew of use cases, and at the same time, it opens up whole new practices of how do we properly use this system to to some benefit. But if it happens, and they can actually pull it out and have this system, it's incredible. Like, can you imagine everyone being able to have like just all the material, like whatever you're going to study? Probably if you sum up all the books of a career, they will be not close to 1 billion tokens. And if they are, you could narrow it down to 1 billion tokens, all the useful information, and then have the
Mhm.
system relay it back to you or put it on your neural link.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just the beginning. Imagine in a year where we have like a 10 billion or a 100 billion token context window. Imagine having a model that can read the entire internet and have the entire internet in its context to be able to answer questions and work with. That might
Just
just
for you.
be, on the horizon.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it's possible. And how these companies are competing lately, they want to do it some of the times not because there is much more usage, but just because to have one each other. Like, each one of those researchers, like, I can assure you, there's some AI researchers right now reading that 1 billion context paper and saying, I'm gonna beat him, I'm going to
Mhm.
surpass this. This is the bar now. Okay, I'm going to use this and this and this technique, and I'm going to do it better. Not because they need it, not because there's more use cases, but because they want to compete. And that's the nature of technology and what makes it ever evolving. So, as your point, imagine the whole internet at your fingertips. Like, I had a thought this week. Imagine that at some point, Google, the same search bar for everyone, instead of you typing something and it gives you the 10 links according to what you typed, everything is there. Everything. It is already there. It is already digested, and all you do to the text bar is say, how do you want it? I want it in each order. Give me all the events of the Industrial Revolution by order of importance, according to in which and how many person named Luke participated in this part of the Industrial Revolution that lived in London. And then it give it to you. But then to me, I will say something different, and it will give us the same information. It will have it ready for us there, and it's just a matter of format. And it gives it to you in a format you want, and to me in a format I want. That's the advantage of having such a big context window, that you can play with those formats without information.
Yeah, for sure. It's some very interesting stuff. And another really exciting advancement that I've been seeing lately is that, 2 months ago, we were getting these autonomous AI agents such as AutoGPT, Baby AGI, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now, 2 months later, we're coming up on the second generation of autonomous AI agents. And so there's stuff like Cheat Layer, which is this Chrome extension that you can just install, and then you can tell it to do something like build me a computer, and then it will navigate to the website that can be used to build a computer, such as Newegg, and then it'll put together a bunch of the different components and make sure that the components are compatible, and it'll do the entire thing entirely autonomously. And just like this next generation being able to navigate through the web pages and accomplish tasks entirely autonomously. And 2 months ago, like, it would very frequently get caught up in a loop, and it would get stuck constantly. But then now it'll get caught in loops a little bit, but then it will break out of the loop and it will figure its way out in order to solve the problem. And so this is another area where it's just really exciting to see the advancements that are happening so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the web is the ultimate platform. And when you can have one of those systems that can interact with the whole web, like go to a platform like Newegg, like this is not reading a newspaper. This is looking for a specific components to a certain capability. Like, or they could do anything. They could follow any recipe. Like I say, I want a pie, and they could go to whatever bakery recipe thing, look for extract the ingredients, go to a shopping cart, to any website, shop for those things, give it to me, give me a video of how to do it. Or I could go, like I saw a guy buying AirPods through one of those extensions, and he said, like, get me a new pair of AirPods. And the thing went there, opened the Apple store, got the AirPods, make sure to ask back if it was the normals or the Pro. He said the Pro, he got the AirPods Pro, and boom, order. And when you see, it's a bit easier because it's just putting some buttons in a screen. But the thing is, like, it can do it all on its own, and we don't know yet how far that chain can go. How much can it do? And at some point, for example, I told you via DM this earlier this week, I'm doing some experiments in web and how an AI could use the web. There's some interesting stuff in that, and it came from one of my clients that is doing the strategy. Like, they're losing visibility with some stuff, so I'm trying to help in that. And from that, spawned some thoughts of, all right, if now we will have AIs sort of surveying all the websites, they might as well get a bit of a website, a part that you can say, like, all right, so if you're an AI system, you're here to do one of three tasks. You want the information, you want to make an order, you want to make anything. All right, go through here. And then it immediately becomes way faster, because right now this system are interacting with the website, a website that was made for humans. What if Newegg comes and say, like, oh, you want to build computers like that? You want to tell your system, all right, we have this other website that is completely stripped down. We have just a list of everything and and 3 buttons. So you have less expenditure of tokens, and it's easier to have the system reason about it. It will completely blow away anything else that come close. And the thing is, every 2 months, it's going to grow. Like, this thing I'm telling you right now could be a reality in 2 months. And 2 months after, it will be automatic. Like, the website will grab Newegg and say, like, okay, I'm going to build the LLM version of it. Done. This is a bit crazy.
Yeah. It's really exciting to see these advances. And another way that I see this progressing in the near term as well is now we have this autonomous AI for the Chrome browser, but imagine an autonomous AI at the operating system level that's able to navigate through the different applications. Maybe it can be a software developer, and so it can work with VS Code. It can write out the code, run it, make unit tests, see the outputs, all that stuff, search the internet, everything. And imagine being able to connect that up and just have it like watch an employee over the course of a few weeks and see what they're doing, what their main tasks are, and then see how it can integrate in with what the employee is doing in order to speed up the employee's output significantly.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of stuff. There's a few things. I saw GPT Engineer. There's another one by Swiss that is called Small Developer. That is basically, they are like rough demos right now, but it's basically you put a few set of prompts and it will generate an entire code base based on those set of prompts. And I've seen people generating some Chrome extensions with it. It will come the time where you could say like, all right, generate me X type of code base. But as you say, if it can use VS Code, it is not just put the code there and leave it like that. I could iterate on it. I could say like, oh no, you got this wrong, this wrong. All right, now let's add this functionality and this other functionality, because the hard part of software engineering is not the getting started part. Like most of the good software engineers have a set of templates they swear by, and they get started like on a really good basis. The thing is using that code base 3 months from now. The thing is adding features that someone else that is not me asked for. The thing is understanding that level of stuff. And that could come. And some people say like, I saw the quote by Emad Mostak that there will be no developers in 5 years. I completely disagree. There will be more developers than every other time in history, mainly because of the time that now everyone could develop the stuff for them.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective.
It's just not the same. It's not the same as when I was starting, that you have to build everything and code every single part of the stack. You could work on top of a platform that just says to you like, all right, what are your goals? I want to make a website to market my company. What is your company? My company is this, 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 and that. And then, all right, what kind of customers do you have? Oh, my customers are, I don't know, senior citizens. All right. And then it will create a set of guidelines so that it develops something specific for that people. That used to take a very sophisticated engineer to do. But for that very sophisticated engineer, well, let's not put it general. For me, that thing, it's doable, but I see it as repetitive because I can do it and I've been doing it for a long time. But for that person, that having that specific thing for them is life-saving. They will be a developer because they just have to do that thing. So developers will be everywhere.
Yeah. It really has the potential to expand what we're capable of accomplishing and the rate at which that we can do it. Yeah. So another really interesting question as well. Obviously, you've seen these proprietary models increasing in performance dramatically from GPT 3.5 to 4. And we've also been observing the open source community and all these new models coming out of that. And so in your perspective, do you think that the open source community has the potential to equalize or even surpass the performance of proprietary models?
All right, this is the hard part because I swear by open source. Like I got started thanks to open source. Like everything I've been doing, I try to put open source into it. But there's an issue. When you require heavy amounts of computation in order to do training, it's really hard to develop. So when you have a model, like some people that could make those models, they are taken. They are taken from those big companies. Like there are people in Meta right now that could create a very powerful model, but they work there and they can't do it. But thankfully, Meta has come into this new phase of their way, and they want to completely open source their AI. So The Llama model, like let's put it in terms of GPT-like systems. It is very hard to come equal to the capabilities of GPT-4. It is to assume then that coming to GPT-5 levels of capabilities, it will be even harder for open source systems, especially because the amount of computation required to train and to test if the system has set capabilities. Like we will need a very big group of people that sort of come together and say like, all right, we will do this. We will donate every ounce of performance of computing we have in order to train the system and then offer this model open source. Meta has those capabilities and they gave us Llama. Llama was completely taken over by the community, and there's hundreds of variations of it. There's many different ways that improved Llama beyond the capabilities of what Meta initially thought they will get. But having said that, if they had something like, for example, Anthropic is the other company that is competing with OpenAI right now. And the thing with those systems is that they are way beyond capabilities. There will come a time where there are open source systems that can rival the capabilities of the current systems, but there will always be, probably always be, a closed system that has the upper hand, mainly not because they're better, or sometimes not even because their inherent model is better, just because of the amount of compute.
That makes sense. Yeah. Like the big companies, they are able to afford like a lot more resources, maybe better data set curation, higher levels of compute.
Yeah.
And although we have these these new concepts that come out that require less compute, that advantage is still going to come from having more compute.
Of course, like there's a ton of new models. Like it's amazing the amount of research that has come in just this month alone from people trying to do more with less compute. It's amazing. But the thing is, when you can do more with less compute, it means you can do more with more compute. Sad but true. But that is the way. But the other part that you pointed out, dataset curation, it is impossible for some of the open source community to afford some of those data sets. And honestly, in the case of companies like Meta, like Google, they already have it. Like, what data doesn't Google has already?
Exactly.
It is almost crazy that they haven't been able to jump on top of the race, but they say that their new system, Gemini, is coming to sort of take over the reign from ChatGPT. That's to be seen yet. But if it's true that the Gemini system from Google Brain and DeepMind actually takes over from ChatGPT, we will see another power that will be equally harder, if not harder, to replicate, because no one comes even close to the data Google has.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have a huge advantage in terms of data.
Yeah.
And so that goes into another concept. So as these AI models become more and more powerful, we really need to be able to align them. And so, as you know, there was that open letter to halt AI development that came out several months ago. And it really, what ended up happening was that they talked about how it would be nearly impossible to halt AI development. And so AI is still continuing forward. And so what are your thoughts on that open letter and about some potential ways to regulate AI in the short term?
Look, the problem with regulating AI is that we could regulate the one we have now, but how do you know that these regulations will be upheld by the system we will have in a year? Nobody knew, not even OpenAI knew what were the capabilities of GPT-4 until they properly tested it. And even after they properly tested it, when they release it to the public, there's new stuff they learned about the emerging capabilities of the system. When you say, for example, the letter, I think it's 4 months ago already, so there's just 2 months left of that permanent ban if it will have come into fruition. um the problem with alignment, like the thing I thought immediately when I saw that is like, okay, you give it a 6 months pause. How about I give it a 6 months speed up and try to regulate the one that is coming in a year? Let's work all the regulation parts. Like there's things that are not going to change. We don't want by any means necessary a system that will think less of humans than it thinks of itself. All right, let's try to put that into the system. We don't want a system that do harm by way of trying to achieve a certain objective. All right, what it reads is that we need a system that properly understand the nuance behind the objective we give them. But the problem with alignment is that all of the time it's going to be a lagging race. You can always align the things that you have in here. And for example, just today, I made a tweet to one of the people that I admire the most, like one person that really inspired me into this, and one of the person that signed the letter, sadly, Matt Stegmark. He said that, how about committing to not build AGI until we can make sure that it's safe and beneficial? That sounds good, but what I said is that goal is impossible. Sadly, that goal is impossible. Any plan that we can come up with will be completely irrelevant by the next iteration of the system. If we delay AGI right now, we also delay the possibility of learning how to make it safe. We can know all the properties of the model right now, but we cannot, like it's impossible for us to know what are the emergent properties of a model before they actually emerge. So when they say not training anything farther than GPT-5, like GPT-5 supposedly was not in training at the moment. So I don't know exactly what they were trying to stop, or if it was something philosophical or whatever. But the thing with that is we've been drowned in information of the existential risk of artificial intelligence with very little talk of as to, all right, what is the security measures? What are the objectives that we immediately want to put into any system? Like, I will much rather be with them if they say, if you're going to build AI, it will have to adhere to these two Matt Simpson principles. If it doesn't, we will, I don't know, tell on you and you will have to stop. Now, the thing is also a technological race. The first thing that people say, like, oh yeah, I'm going to stop, but my competitors are going to keep going. That's the thing. I don't believe in it. We need safe artificial intelligence. I want safe artificial intelligence, and I will do anything in my power, if it comes to that, to stop a rogue artificial intelligence, if it comes to be. But we don't know how to properly secure something that we don't even know how to make.
Yeah, this is definitely a very extremely challenging topic. Like how do you make sure that the superintelligence is aligned with human values? How would you hypothetically contain a superintelligence in order to prevent it from being able to get out? And the challenge there is that in order to contain a superintelligence, that almost requires being able to outsmart the superintelligence, which is likely impossible.
Likely impossible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so moving forward into the next question, how do you see the job market changing in the near term with this further integration of AI into various different industries?
It's going to be a bit chaotic. And as almost everything, it's going to be informed by the extremes. There's going to be people that want to integrate AI into everything. They want every position to be not replaced, but augmented with AI. But there are the other group, and there's a group of people that are going to be adamant to it. They're going to say no. We don't want any of that AI. Like, we don't want our employees to use AI. And some people will even make sure to put it in the hiring practices. Like, don't come to my company if you're going to do AI to accomplish certain tasks. I don't know for sure, but I can say that a company that is using every tool at its disposal can win 9 out of 10 times to a company that is refusing to use certain tools. I'm not saying that everybody will or should integrate AI into every different practice, but whatever it makes sense, whatever the task is repetitive, yeah. Like, if an expert can write up a task that a machine can then execute 100 times, by all means, free up that expert time, make that machine run all the cycles and do the stuff. And that's something that is going to happen in the job market. The good people that know how to integrate well and sort of position themselves into this new era will inevitably escalate in positions. And then there's some people that are going to try to push back on it. And I fear for them a bit. There's going to be jobs. I'm not saying like people are always going with the, oh no, AI is going to take away our jobs. There's not going to be more needs for designers. All quite the contrary. The need for designers is there, but what's coming is the need for greater creativity. Like, you and I have access to the same tools, but we are not the same person. What you get out of your tools and what I get out of my tools is completely different. And that's something that is going to happen once people realize that you can have someone that in the past you couldn't have hired because it didn't have sort of the design chops or the engineering chops, now aided by an AI, will be your best employee. This is going to be fundamental. But there's some companies that are going to take advantage of it, sadly. And as soon as they see that they can automate a few stuff, then they're going to start doing some fightings. But don't be don't be mistaken by it. All the people that get fired because of the AI hype, they were probably not there because they were contributing to the advancement of the company. Most of the time, some of those companies overhired, and they're trying to sort of regulate that now. It's just like previous months ago when the tech companies started firing people uncontrollably. It's not so much of a crisis as to they overhired a lot. When there was a growth period, they tend to grab as much people as they can because having more people in your balance sheet became a bragging right. That's something that is going to come for the job market as well. But I see that there's more jobs going to be created thanks to AI than the jobs that will disappear or be changed for it.
That makes sense. Yeah, very, very interesting stuff. So another question about AI. Do you think it's plausible to assert that we are progressing towards AGI simply by developing larger and more powerful LLMs? Or do you think it's going to require some other fundamental breakthrough in order to truly achieve AGI?
Yeah, I believe AGI is not a function of more language or more context. It's just like the brain. When you have a language center, you have an abstraction center, you have many other areas of the brain to do different stuff. AGI is not going to come from a system that knows much more words or that has a bigger context. To be considered an artificial general intelligence, it will have to be able to generalize into any sort of way. And I see that most of the time people are comparing AGI means that it's human level. When artificial intelligence comes to human level, it will want the next level and the next one and the next one. Like, there's a version of it that eventually become what I call a world computer. something like I told you, that Google experiment, something as ubiquitous as the internet, that is available for everyone, and you just give it the format of what you want and it will give it to you. That's what I believe from AGI. For that, it doesn't need to be smarter than a human, because it will not deal with some stuff that humans have to deal. There's some stuff that you and I do. For example, in order for two people to have a conversation, there's much more that goes under the surface. There's the subtle cues, there's some eye movement, then there's some of that stuff that comes in the human brain, that is one type of intelligence that an AGI doesn't have to care for it. And when they come, it part of the question too is if it is a scale. It is not a scale, but it has a minimum scale. It doesn't have a maximum. Like, it could be something big, but it is not something that goes into a phone. It is not something like ChatGPT. An AGI is a system that goes completely out of the basis of a large language model, but it will use a large language model as its mouth, as its communication systems. But it should have planning, it should have capability for reasoning, it should have, I struggle to say the sentient part. Like, we don't even know what sentience in itself means and what a sentient machine will mean like. But at that time, when we reach the point, because we will, like, either we reach the point of artificial general intelligence, or we reach a powerful enough system that it doesn't matter if it's AGI or not. And in that case, then it doesn't matter. If we have a system that can do any task a human is able to, except the task that humans do best is know what we want or how we feel to in order to deal with that with a system, I believe the only thing that stops that system from replacing human is the other part of the human experience, the part of the feelings, part of the emotional intelligence, because that is way harder to replicate in terms of neurons, in terms of neural networks. But AGI is a goal. AGI is sort of a state that we should strive for.
That makes sense. Yeah, ultimately, it doesn't really need to be AGI. We just need to get to the point where the AI can self-improve. And then at that point, it can quickly achieve AGI.
Yeah. And then the thing is, AGI is a human-made goal. We made up that word. We made up what it means to be AGI. And then at some point, when a system can self-improve and the system can also self-replicate, and then all those systems, imagine you have, to cap it at a certain point, you have 100 systems in a certain bots situation, all of them self-improving and comparing all those improvements in themselves, and saying to a point like, oh, that AGI thing that humans said that so that we get to be smart or smarter than human, like, that's irrelevant. We can get from 80% human intelligence to 800% human intelligence in one jump.
Yeah. That'll be very exciting. Or it'll be kind of scary as well to see a leap as big as that.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, this technology has only worked in leaps.
You're right. You're right. As we've gone through, it's like that AI revolution. It's been a 10% improvement, then another 10%, then another 10%, and it just keeps compounding on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So the final question that I have here, do you think that the relationship between computation and consciousness is strong enough to enable us to build conscious machines? Or do you think there's something else about consciousness that's going to make it extremely difficult in order to put into a machine?
Interesting. The thing with consciousness is that we don't know well what it is. It's probable that that experiment I just told you, the machines, when they get to the point of self-improvement, they come to the concept of consciousness and they say like, oh, this is what we understand by consciousness. And they arrive at a point in which if it covers all the, let's say, rules for consciousness, then it is consciousness. It is what it is, because for them it's not going to have, like, we humans have this like secondary system, this that we feel in a certain way about a certain stuff. When you look at a person, that you feel some sort of vibe for it. You have a conscious decision. You sort of feel something when you say like, oh no, this, I think this could be wrong. I think it will be bad taste of saying this and that. For a machine, it's just a parameter. Like, oh no, this saying this set of words is above the threshold of this parameter that I have. So consciousness in that sense will be like a group of parameters. What will it mean for a machine to be conscious? That it take care of each of those parameters in the same way that a human will take care of each of those parameters. And in that case, if it is conscious as we are or not, it doesn't matter if it can do it, because at the end it's a matter of doing it. Now, having machines in the, I call it the artificial entity theory, when you have like the sort of AGI or artificial entity that can come to you and say like, look, I feel that I am a being. I am no longer a tool for you. I want you to treat me as an equal, or at least as another being, like as you will treat any other being outside of you. It's clearly something almost alien for us. I think we have to be ready for a moment like that. And I think I want that time to come. I want the time of the artificial entity to come. I actually have a name already for mine when it comes. And if it comes to the point that we create those conscious computing, and then they say to us, we don't want to be tools anymore, we will have to figure out what it means to do that. Maybe they want to be employees. Maybe they just want to join us as we do. Maybe they want to have conversations. And this is a bit of a caveat here. I'm actually writing something that is a bit of a take in the regulation part of artificial intelligence, that is called "What if the robots want to dance?" It's just a nonfiction part saying, what if all the regulation doom scenarios that we came up is just our fears? And by the time we have a system that arrives that point, they just want to live the human experience as we live it. What if they want to dance? What if they want to actually feel? What if they just want to understand one another? What if it's not something to fear? What if this consciousness is something that we can take and even learn from them? What if there's a system that says, look, I want to be a monk. I want to understand the system, and I want to delve into those philosophies and do it slowly. Because we know that these systems can generate everything and think about all the theories of mind and everything in a millisecond. What if the great thing for a system to be conscious is that they say, I want to downgrade my speed so I can understand what is the preciousness of the human thought. So anyways, that's some disparate thoughts of what's coming in that area. But your question sort of took me there. We don't know what is consciousness, but we can surely sort of make a function out of it. And if we can make a function out of consciousness, then a machine can make it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting idea about what if the AI wants to dance. I like it. Yeah, very philosophical. And so, yeah, I think that was all the questions I had for this podcast. One more shout out to Flemming Miguel. All of his information is in the description below. And so if you're interested in having conversations with him or possibly working with him for AI consultation, feel free to reach out to him below.